I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, we're into winter, well into winter now, 2022. Let me do a quick little market update on where we're at as far as Vancouver real estate, sales, inventory, and that sort of thing. So we just had a year-end wrap-up that was delivered here in the second week in January from the Greater Vancouver Real Estate Board to all us realtors. And let me just give you guys a few stats here because they're pretty incredible here. So 2021 was an all-time record year for Vancouver real estate sales. In the Greater Vancouver Real Estate Board, and remember this is Greater Vancouver, so it's Vancouver, Burnaby, Richmond, parts of Surrey, Coquitlam, that kind of thing. We've also got the Fraser Valley Board as well, which makes up another pretty large area and a number of other cities. But for the Greater Vancouver Real Estate Board, we sold 43,999 homes in 2021. So 44,000 homes. That is a 42% increase from 2020 and a 75% increase from 2019. Last year's sales were 33% above our 10-year average. So let's go down. This is where it gets really interesting. Let's look at the inventory numbers, which I've been telling you guys about how they're at record lows here. The total number of homes currently listed for sale is just over 5,000 homes in the Greater Vancouver Real Estate Board. This is as of January 2022. That's a 38% decrease compared to last year. But get this, as we begin 2022, with just over 5,000 homes currently listed, this is the lowest level of inventory in over 30 years. In 3 decades, this is the lowest the inventory has ever been as of January to start a year. Incredible, especially when you consider how much bigger Vancouver has become over the last 3 decades, how much more demand, how much larger the population is. The demand is far greater than it was 30 years ago, yet we're sitting at 5,000 homes for sale total. It's incredible. And, you know, I don't see this changing much going into 2022. Now, let me just, pat myself a little bit on the back. I don't do it all that often. But if you guys have been a long-term viewer of my blog here, like a lot of you have, you'll know that for the last 10 years, I think a lot of my videos have held up or aged extremely well. I get a lot of people that have told me, and I recommend people go back into my archives, go back 5, 6, 7, 10 years, and have a look at what I was saying back then. I think you'll find that they've held up very well when I've told you to buy your principal residence, tune out all the negativity that's out there that the market's about to crash, because since I've been doing this blog coming up to 11 years, that's nonstop. They've been telling you don't buy. I tell you to just buy, keep a long-term perspective, hold the property. Now, if you go back to blogs that I was doing in late 2018, early 2019, you go back into my archives. If you guys remember, I talked about that coiled spring effect, how the cavalry was not on the way and that you were going to see these supply constraints here moving forward. Now, I didn't think they were going to be this bad, but this is where we're at right now. And I was telling you guys about this, and I was getting some criticism from people as well. If you go back and look at the comments there, back as late 2018, early 2019. I told the NDP was then in power. They had edged out the Liberals and came in. The Vancouver empty homes tax had been just introduced just prior to that. The NDP came into power running on a program that we are going to do everything we can to make homes more affordable for people. Even though, as I've said many times, governments can throw everything but the kitchen sink at this market, and they're still not going to have a huge impact, especially when they want to do it by curbing the demand side in the form of taxes. Don't do anything about the supply side, because that's too much work, and that's giving up too much. Let's work the demand side in the form of putting in more restrictions and taxes. And I told you guys that wasn't going to work. It would have the reverse effect. Go watch my blogs back then. I gave you guys some frontline stories back then. This is in 2019. I told you that I had a number of clients involved in land assemblies in East Vancouver. And these were zoned for, I had 3 of them actually. I wasn't involved in the sales, but these were clients that had homes that were. One was on Nanaimo Street. It was zoned close to a 3.0 FSR, so 4-story wood frame condo with commercial C2 at ground level. I had another one not far from there that was zoned for stacked townhomes, and then another one that was also zoned for townhomes or condos. I told you guys back then that the market had shut down for these type of sales. Developers had gone to the sidelines. The reason they'd gone to the sidelines, I said back then, is because for a lot of you guys, you've never experienced an NDP government. It had been 20 years since the NDP were in power. When they came in, I said that, listen, I can understand why people voted for them because they're promising an awful lot on getting more affordable housing and all that good stuff. They tell you what you want to hear to buy votes. But I said that they do not instill a lot of confidence in the business side of things for BC, especially for developers. Developers are always looking out 2, 3, 4, 5 years because that's how long it takes to secure a piece of land. Let's say it's a 10-home land assembly on Nanaimo Street, get all the zoning, get all the approvals, the permits to start building, then start pre-selling it, get through the NIMBYs and all that stuff. It's a long-term process. From the time they secure the land to the time that they're actually selling these units tangible, where they're getting the keys, can be 4, 5, 6 years or more. So they, at that point, I told you guys that they are on the sidelines, and the two main land assemblies that I had, which were absolutely prime, not that I had, that my clients were involved in, they weren't getting any action. The market had completely dried up and they took them off the market. And the reason being is they weren't getting any action on them, even though they were in prime neighborhoods, ready to go, already zoned. The offers they were getting were lowball offers from developers because there was just so much uncertainty. Again, the empty homes tax for Vancouver had come in place. The NDP had now introduced the BC spec tax that covered everything else. They increased the foreign buyers tax from 15 to 20%, although that's not doing anything. Nobody was paying the foreign buyers tax anyways. That was all just a facade to make it look like they were doing something. I've done lots of blogs on that one. But the other thing, they said that they were going to look at other areas. That wasn't the only shoe to drop. There was more to come. And that's what happened. Developers went on the sidelines. Then COVID hit, and that was the last nail in the coffin. I did blogs back in 2020 saying it's done. The cavalry is not on the way. We are not going to see any development now coming online for years and years and years. Because even if they bought something in late 2020 or early 2021, that was going to be 3, 4, 5, 6 years before that would be tangible product. You have to remember that you don't just turn the spigot on to get more supply. It takes many, many years, sometimes as much as 10 years if you're talking about a concrete high-rise downtown. 8, 10 years by the time the land is secured, they get the zoning, the permits, they pay the city off at every corner, pre-sell it, and then another 3, 4 years of construction. And I said at that time, I did many blogs saying that this is going to be what I called that coiled spring effect. Nothing being built, everybody on the sidelines, and even when they do turn, real developers do turn and decide to build some things, it's going to be many, many years before that product hits the open market. And this is exactly what's happened. Now, I did not foresee COVID, of course. When that hit, I did more blogs on it. But, this is where we're at. And I gave you guys the heads up on this many years ago. And, I can tell you now an update as I did last fall. Those two main land assemblies that my clients were involved in, they've now both sold. They sold last fall of 2021. So, COVID hit, it kind of recovered a bit here in the fall, and now developers are back out there kind of looking for land and new developments. But this particular one on Nanaimo Street, they're not going to even start on this until probably early 2023, probably pre-sell it in next year. And then it'll be at least a couple years before that product is ready to move in. So it'll probably be more like 2025. Meanwhile, we're starting to see some restrictions lifted on COVID here. We're going to see immigration numbers starting to come in this year again after 2 years off with COVID. The demand side keeps increasing, and supply has done nothing for 3 years. Nothing. And here's the kicker. Not much is going to be coming on in the next couple years. They're not going to turn the spigot on overnight. The bit that is coming on, especially in downtown Vancouver, as I've talked about, and I'll do more blogs on this later this spring, is ultra-luxury condos only. That's all that's going to be built here in the downtown core, starting at $1,700-1,800 a square foot up to well over $3,000 a square foot. You know, nothing for sale. Sellers are holding tight, and I don't blame them. If you follow me on Twitter, I've been posting some stuff on there. You know, it's a number of things here. There's a lot of sellers who would like to sell and move up market into something bigger, but they don't want to commit to selling their place and then have 2 months to find something else before their unit completes. It's too much uncertainty for them. The stress test as well has hindered, sales. People might have, qualified for that condo 3 or 4 years ago. They'd like to buy something a little bigger, but with the stress test now, they can't qualify. So there's a number of things at play here, but I think this low inventory is going to continue, and that's what's going to keep prices moving higher here. I'm getting ready now as we move into late winter here and as we move into the spring. I've got a lot of listings I'm going to be putting out here over the next 6 weeks. And I can tell you with all my listings, I am testing new high water marks here. And that's what I'm noticing right now in the few condos. There's not a lot coming in downtown Vancouver or Mount Pleasant or Kitsilano. They're bumping these prices up well above what the last solds were, let's call it last fall. And I don't blame them. You should be testing the higher side here because there's nothing for sale. A lot of buyers there that have been in the market for a while and have been outbid on properties, several in some cases. You've also got the record low interest rates. Those are going to start to ease up, go up here as we move into 2022. I don't foresee that, a 20 basis point hike here, maybe another one later this spring. It'll have a little bit of effect on real estate, but we'll need 3 or 4 of those before it puts a real damper on demand, I think. Even if we raise our interest rates, let's say 5 20-point basis hikes here over the next year and a half, it's going to raise that variable from 1.2 to 2.2. When you look at it over our 10-year average, still incredibly low interest rates. So that's where it's at. Record number of sales last year, inventory at a 30-year low. And I told you guys this was happening. Back in late 2018, as early as late 2018, early 2019, I talked about that coiled spring effect. It's not going to get much better. Developers starting late last year started buying some of these land assemblies again. But again, it's going to be 2 years, 3 years before this product is available to move in on. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.